Welcome to the Overlady Reads, the show where I'm the Overlord and this is the Overlady, and she read something today or this last week, and we're going to talk about it. I'm your host, Ben, and this is your other host.
I'm not saying it, you say it.
Lucy! Right, and we're finally here, Lucy. We've finally reached what is considered the magnum opus part of the Cosmere. You've read
We're in pretty deep at this point, aren't we?
We are in pretty deep. We've read all of Mistborn, all of Elantris, all of Warbreaker. We haven't done Arcanum Unbounded, but that is coming after.
That's after Oathbringer.
After Oathbringer. And now we're here at the Stormlight Archive.
Cool.
How are you feeling?
It's a big book.
It's a very, very big book. This one did not take you 2 days to read, did it?
No, I think this one took... When did I start?
You started the day after Warbreaker, which would have been last Tuesday. So it took you just over a week.
Just under a week.
Just under a week.
So if I started on Wednesday...
And it's Tuesday today. Oh, it's Wednesday today.
It's Wednesday today, but
So
I finished it yesterday.
That's a good point.
So it took 6 days. 6 days.
6 days. That's a pretty impressive rate. That's a solid rate.
No, that was a slow read. That was a very slow read.
You struggled at some parts, didn't you?
I think when it comes to something like this, because it's such a big book and it's setting up how many books are there?
There's going to be 10 in the end.
Yeah, so it's got to do a lot of setup for 10 books.
Yep.
So the majority of the book is set up.
Yeah.
And it's a long time. There were chapters that were 2 hours long. And it was a solid 2 hours of just 2 characters stood and talking.
You know.
So it was
talking
slow.
They're talking about good stuff, you know?
Oh, it's not a complaint.
Yeah.
The last 15% of the book was amazing.
Yes.
It was just getting to that last 15% of the book.
It's something I always say is you have to build that trust. When it comes to Brandon, you have to build that trust that his endings will be worth it. That's why I never ever recommend someone does the Starlight Archive first. Some people recommend the Stormlight Archive first, but I just do not agree with that. I absolutely think you need to start with the other stuff so you can build up to this.
Yeah, I think if you're used to really big, epic fantasies, you probably could. But where it's not really my jam. Yeah. So I've definitely had to build to this.
So what was the longest book you read before this?
Oh, about 1,000 pages.
Okay, fair enough.
Page length, length of book doesn't bother me. Yeah. I don't normally read books where each book is 1,000 or so pages. Yeah. And because of that, there's just so much dialogue.
It's normally the last book in a series that's that long, not the first one.
Or quite a lot of the standalone books I read are about that length. Okay. But that's got to get a whole book into one book. Yes. Whereas this has got to set up for 10 books. Yeah. So there was a lot of setup.
Yeah, there was a lot of setup. Brandon did once say that this would be the longest book because it requires the most setup and has the most world building in it. And Brandon's a big fat liar because it's the shortest one so far.
Joy.
Yeah.
Joy.
Cool. So the way we're going to format this is, you can probably tell from the title, this is going to be part 1. This is definitely going to be a multi-part video because there's no way we can talk about all of this book in one go. No,
we just don't know how many parts yet. We're going to work that one out as we read.
We're going to we're going to try and keep it reasonable. But yeah, this is a big book. This is going to be a long video.
So before the prologue, there is a prelude.
Oh yes, the first of the 3 prologues. So you have the prelude to the Stormlight Archive. Yeah. Do you remember anything about it?
Oh, yeah. It was Kalak and
Jezrien. Or Jezrien, depending on, it's up for debate, that one.
Obviously, whatever it is that their task is, it seems to be a big battle sort of thing. Yeah. They're done. Yes. It seems that every time they die, they go back to sort of a hellscape where everything's burning and everything is awful. And once they've completed the battle, they go back to the same place because they seem to have some sort of contract that they need to fulfill. The cat is on my notes.
The cat's just made her.
I can do this. Okay. So they've got some sort of contract that they need to fulfill.
Yeah.
And because of that, they're just stuck in this endless cycle.
Yes.
And they are done.
Yep.
So they have decided that, no, that's it. We're just going to go our separate ways. We're done with this.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, what about that one guy that died? He's still stuck fulfilling that contract. And they're like, just leave him.
They're like, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. Yeah.
I have a theory about who that person is.
Okay. And you go for it.
Cool. I think that's Szeth.
You think it's Szeth?
Yeah.
Which one do you think is Szeth?
The one that's stuck, still fulfilling the contract.
Stay behind. Okay, interesting. Okay.
Just because he's the only person I know that is stuck having to do some sort of contract loop.
Interesting.
Like, that's what I'm currently going with until I've got a bit more evidence.
That's
otherwise.
Fine. That's fine. I'm probably not going to be correcting Lucy on a lot of this because I don't think you guys realise how little we get in way of kings.
I got loads, mate. Got so many theories.
In terms of answers to questions, you get lots of questions in way of kings. You don't get a lot of answers. So I'm probably not going to be correcting you on a lot of theories this episode. But
That's fine. I like it that way.
Cool.
Then I can just pretend that I'm right and it's all good.
And then it's fine until you find out the actual answer.
Prologue.
So then you get the prologue. The second prologue.
Szeth.
Yes.
Did I say it right?
It's Szeth. I say Szeth.
Szeth.
Yeah.
Szeth.
You
Szeth.
kind of combine the letters into one noise is what I do. But you can, some people say Szeth. That's fine.
Ew.
I know, right?
So Szeth.
Oh my god, cat!
So, prologue.
The prologue.
So, Szeth is walking through the feast.
Yeah.
And his masters have told him that he needs to kill the king.
Yeah.
But he needs to be seen doing it.
Yeah.
He needs to wear the Pashi?
Oh my god. Parshendi.
Yeah. He needs to wear the Parshendi, like, murder colours so that they know it was a Parshendi.
Szeth's sons Villano wore white the day he was to kill a king. That's a great opener.
It is.
Yeah.
So he's walking along and he is drawing Stormlight into him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we're introduced to the Stormlight magic system.
Yeah.
And he's sticking people to walls.
Yeah.
He's walking on the ceiling.
Yeah.
He is cool. I like him.
It is
And
great.
then he summons his shard blade.
Mm-hmm.
And he murders everyone.
Yeah.
He is amazing. I love him.
Yeah.
He is a great character. And that's kind of where they leave him. He kills the king.
Yeah.
So he writes down the king's last words that he wanted him to pass along to his brother.
Yeah, find the most
Couldn't
important.
pass them along to Dalinar because Dalinar is currently passed out after drinking too much of the blue wine.
Oh my god! Oh, you and your blue wine.
It shouldn't have been in the other books.
Okay, that's fair.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dalinar was not in a good place during that feast.
He was very drunk.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
And then Szeth leaves.
Yeah.
Because that's his that's his sort of contract done.
One final thing, Gavilar also gives him a lovely black sphere.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The same sort of thing that Shallan finds in the make-believe world.
Good comparison. Good comparison. The black spheres will be a mystery for a while, don't you worry. The black spheres.
But they're in the...
Yes, there are also black spheres in Shadespire. We'll get to them. Why
are they not the same thing? Oh my gosh, I didn't need more setup. So yeah, that was the prologue.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yep.
Really enjoyed it.
It's very good. It's really, really, really long for a prologue. I forgot how long it is.
I think it's an hour long. But all of the prologues in these books are an hour long.
You're talking reading speed, or like it's like an hour in an audiobook, and an hour in an audiobook is like a tenth of a normal book.
Oh,
yeah, it's like it is a long ass prologue.
Took an hour to read.
Yeah. Then you've got the I call it the third prologue because even though it's chapter 1, it's a one-off character that we never see again, kind of introducing some other stuff. Were you not going to go on to chapter 1?
I genuinely have forgotten.
Have you genuinely forgotten?
Genuinely forgotten.
Chapter 1 is Sen, the little guy who Kaladin recruits into his little spearman group in the Amaram's army. He's like a little boy, and he's like, I'm gonna pee my pants in the yeah. He's like, I'm gonna pee my pants in the battle, and then we're gonna go fight, and then Kaladin's gonna save me because Kaladin is the coolest. And then that's basically a third prologue in my opinion, because it's like a one-off character.
Well, no, because that's setting Kaladin up.
Yeah.
For Kaladin's chapters, because it's a Kaladin chapter. It's not a one-off chapter.
Yeah.
And I think you'll find that you meet him again.
You do, very, very briefly.
So therefore, he's not a one-off character. So don't give me any of that. Kaladin,
let's go on to Kaladin.
Love Kaladin. Kaladin is the best. Oh,
I'm glad you like Kaladin a lot.
Poor Kaladin. Mm-hmm. All he wants to do is help everyone. Yeah. He just wants to protect. He just wants to make sure that everything's okay.
Yeah.
And everyone keeps dying.
Everyone keeps dying all the time.
In the first chapter, he goes out of his way to save a new recruit.
Yeah.
It's like his first ever battle. He doesn't know what he's doing, and Kaladin's like, I'm taking him, he's mine.
Yeah.
He's like, protect this boy, and he's doing so good. And then Kaladin goes off to fight a shard bearer.
Yeah.
And then another shard bearer appears from behind them and just murders all of his troop.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
And then the next chapter is 8 years later?
8 months later.
8 months later. Yes. And he is now a slave.
Yep. You just get a hard cut to he's now a slave.
And he is not in a good place.
No.
Quite understandably.
Yes.
He's on his way to the war camp. He doesn't know that, but he's being taken to the war camp to be used as a bridgeman.
Yeah.
And he's just given up on life. He's given up on trying to help people because nothing ever comes from it.
Yeah.
He's given up on everything.
Yeah, there was 10 escape attempts whilst he was a slave, and it's like in all of those occasions, he still, like, everyone gets captured again, and he loses everyone again. Like, it just keeps happening where he's, like, the only one left.
Oh no, I had something before that. In the first chapter, during the battle...
Yes.
As Sen is, like, wounded on the ground...
Yeah.
Kaladin is above him fighting.
Yes.
And the air ripples around him.
Yes, it does.
Like, as soon as I read that, like, it made me think of the shard blade that Szeth draws, because it has the air rippling around it when he draws it.
Yes.
So I thought maybe Kaladin had something to do with, like, he either had a shard blade hidden or he had some sort of, like, I don't know.
Yeah,
but that was my thought on that chapter. Yeah. Like, I assumed that maybe he had one hidden, but because he was a slave, he didn't want his owners finding it, so he's got it hidden somewhere.
Yes. And then I think I remember pointing out that if he had a shard blade, he wouldn't be a slave. Like, he just straight up, he wouldn't, like, no man would be able to keep him.
Yeah. But, yeah, I left chapter 1 feeling like there was something a bit off about him.
There definitely is.
Yeah. And then when he's a slave in his slave caravan, he started talking a lot about how he had got his brother killed as well. Mm-hmm. So I thought that my thought on that was maybe like he spoke about growing up wanting to be a soldier. So maybe he'd convinced his little brother to go along with him when he went to war.
Yeah.
And his brother had died in a battle and he hadn't. So, like, that was my thought on that.
And he had kind of guilt about that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why he was drawing in the younger children to try and, like, protect them. And because he wasn't able to protect his brother.
Yeah.
And he was failing.
He was failed, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then we meet Syl.
Yes, and then Syl turns up.
I love Syl.
Syl is
amazing. It's like Kaladin is all broody and depressed. And there is no joy left. He is done. He has given up on life. And then Syl is just this funny little spirit that's like pulling pranks on him, and he's like, "Stop!"
Yeah. And he's like, "Can you leave me alone and just wallow in my misery, please?"
And then she starts talking.
Yeah.
I like her.
Yeah, she starts asking questions, and like she adds that levity to his chapters.
She doesn't start asking questions yet.
Yeah, she asks him what his name is. And he's like, Kaladin. She's like, why? He's like,
okay.
I don't know.
Cool.
He's like, I don't know. I just knew it is my name. And she's like, why do I know it's your name? And it's like, yeah.
So my initial thoughts in part 1 about her were that maybe she was some kind of shard or some sort of like Sion or like
yes, you thought she was a splinter or something like that.
Like it had already said that she wasn't acting the way that they normally do.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe she was something different.
Yeah.
I think I left that one as maybe her being like a shard. Yeah. Like a splinter of a shard.
Yes.
So then I had to try and work out what shards were on Osha. So that was fun.
Yep. Don't you love it when you're like, what shard is on here? And then you realise they call everything after shards. You got shard plate, you got shard blades.
There's a lot of shards.
There's a lot of shards in these books.
So yeah, then he gets to the shattered plains.
Yeah.
He gets to his war camp and he's like, great, still fighting for that same prince that I hate.
Yeah.
And he gets put in Bridge 4.
Yes, he gets put in Bridge 4.
Because that's his punishment. He's not having a good time in Bridge 4. Bridge 4 is the bridge that they put you in when they want you to die.
It's an especially unlucky bridge.
It's got the highest death rate. It's got like the lowest morale as a result. It's the butt of every joke. And like it's the punishment for the bridgeman to be put in Bridge 4.
Yes, as if being a bridgeman wasn't bad enough.
So he's put at the front of the bridge multiple times.
Yeah.
He always manages to come out of the battle completely unscathed. And like he's like, okay, guess I must just be lucky.
Yeah.
But it means that I've got to watch everyone around me die.
I was going to say, I think he more considers it a curse because he's like, I keep surviving.
Yeah. But everyone around him dies. So every time the bridge goes out, half the men make it back.
Yeah.
And he's got to deal with meeting new people, and then they die the next day, and then it's just a constant stream.
Yeah.
And in the end, he just goes, you know what? Well, Syl turns around and she's like, dude, this is too much for me. Yes. I need to go.
I forget Syl,
It's too much. So she leaves. And then after a couple more bridge runs, he's like, I'm on my own. Not even the Spren that's following me around can deal with this.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go and kill myself.
Yeah.
So he goes to the edge of like the plain where it's like the bridgeman's suicide point.
Yes, the honours chasm. Yeah.
And he stood at the edge, and then Syl returns with a leaf.
She's got a leaf.
And she's like, you've been so upset since you lost your leaf.
Yeah.
Here is a new leaf.
Yeah. She didn't realise the leaf was poisoned. No. It's like, oh no.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then she's like, well, maybe you can try one more time.
Yeah.
And he's like, fine, I will try one more time. That's the end of Kaladin for part 1.
Part 1, yeah. Part 1 is just Kaladin arrives, he does a couple of bridge runs, and then he decides, do you know what? I'm going to try this one last time. I'm going to try and help these people.
It's such a good start to a character.
You were loving part 1. You were like...
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, part 1 was split between Kaladin and Shallan.
Yep. You're not calling her Shallalak in this video. She calls her Shallalak when it's just the two of us because she knows it annoys me.
But it's so funny. It's like when I say Spren.
Yes. Oh, you said it. You said it correctly. Well done.
Was that correct?
Yes, Spren is correct.
Spreen.
No!
It's because it gets such a reaction from you every time. It's amazing. So part 1 is split between Kaladin and
Shallan. There you go. Yeah.
It's in my head now. I'm going to do it.
You're going to keep saying it's fine. Shallan.
Shallan. So we meet Shallan.
Well done, yes. And what's Shallan up to?
So Shallan's dad has died.
Mm-hmm.
He's angered a lot of people. Her family has no money.
Yeah.
And she is very close to people finding out that her dad is dead and selling her and her brothers into slavery. So she's got to find some way to get the family money back.
Yes.
And they have a broken soul caster.
Yes.
Another magic system. Thank you.
Get another magic system.
So they've got a broken soulcaster, and the only person that she can think that has one is Jasnah.
Yes. Jasnah Kholin.
So she decides, right, Jasnah doesn't have a ward. I'm going to go and see if I can become her ward so that I can steal her Shadowcaster.
Soulcaster. Where's Shadowcaster come from?
Don't know. It sounds cool.
It does sound cool, though.
So she's going to go and steal it from her because they need a working one so they can restore their family.
Yes.
And she is a heretic, so she doesn't deserve it anyway. So she gets there, and on her way on the boat, she's talking about her dad dying, and she mentions a giant blade that she was holding 1 minute and then the next minute was gone. So I was like, she has a shard blade.
Yes.
She has a shard blade. I want her shard blade to reappear.
There is 3 hints in like the first 2 chapters of Shallan's storyline. But because it's so early on, you don't understand. You don't really fully understand the mechanics of shard blades. So like, it's super easy to miss. But yeah, there's like she mentioned that.
I picked up on it because her holding it 1 minute and then when she let go, it vanished. Yeah, because that's what Szeth did. So she's got a shard blade, and that's really cool. I want her shard blade to appear. And that's pretty much what I wrote in my notes. It's like the first thing. So she gets there, and Jasnah is not too bothered by her. She's like, okay, just follow me for a minute. She goes and soulcasts this stone because the passageway had collapsed and the king's granddaughter was stuck. So she just vanishes this gigantic stone. Yes. And then she gets to the veil and she's like, no, you're not good enough for me, go away. Yes. Like, you don't have enough history knowledge, you don't have enough philosophy knowledge. What makes you think I'm going to take you as my history scholar? Yes. So she dismisses Shallan.
And Shallan gets real snappy with it. Shallan's like, hey, it looks like you already want a master as a ward. Do you not understand the concept of wardship?
And then, so she goes into the big sort of like library.
Yeah,
and like leaves Shallan. Just out. Yeah. So Shallan goes to sort of like her little sitting area and like sits and waits for her. Yeah. And while she's there, she writes a sassy letter to show that she is smart enough for this. Yeah. And she starts doing she does a sketch of Jasnah soul casting the stone away. And while she's sitting there, a priest comes and joins her because he's waiting as well.
Good old Capsule.
He's a lovely guy.
What a great guy.
I didn't really like him.
Okay.
Something didn't seem right about him.
I feel like that's on purpose.
I know. Yeah. It felt like that.
Yeah.
And like in Brandon's books, he does a lot of setting up a character and you don't know whether to like them or not like them. Yeah. And you're sort of waiting for them to like tip one way. Yes. So he was one of those characters where at the end of meeting him, I was a bit like, oh, yeah, don't know how he's going to be. Yeah. He, like, something wasn't quite right with him. And then Jasnah comes back with, like, a load of books, puts them down on the table on the letter. She dismisses Shallan. Yeah. And Shallan's like, well, read my letter first. Yes. So she reads the letter, and then she's like, fine, you're just gonna not leave me alone until I do this. And she's like, no, I won't. So she's like, right, tell you what, go and do some studying, then come back and see me. I will let you have another appointment. Yeah. And that's where we leave.
Yes, that's Shallan. Where we leave Shallan, yeah.
So that was Shallan in part 1.
That's all of part 1.
That's all of part 1.
Easy peasy.
So then we have the interludes for part 1.
Yes.
Where we get to meet new characters.
This Ishik one was great. So, yeah, I'll let you... So what happens in the Ishik one, Lucy?
So Ishik he's a guy just chilling in his little village next to the Crystal Lake?
The Pure Lake.
The Pure Lake.
It's not next to the Pure Lake, it's in the Pure Lake. It's like...
Okay, it's in the Pure Lake.
Yeah.
And 3 guys turn up. Yeah. Interested to know if he's seen Hoity Boy. Yeah. And quite quickly into them talking, I was like, these are Worldhoppers.
Yeah.
And if they're Worldhoppers, that means that I've met them before.
Yeah.
So then I started trying to work out who they were.
Yeah.
I got that Grumpy was Kaladin.
Yeah, you got Kaladin like straight away, easy peasy.
His mannerisms and his pattern of speech were the same. So he was really easy to pick up.
Yeah, it's so good because it's the same speech patterns, but it's translated. So instead of saying like Colo, he says understand at the end. And it's like, I love it. It's great.
Yeah. And then the Thinker.
Yes.
He is just sort of given a description of like being quite military soldier-like.
Yeah.
So then I started thinking about all of the books that I'd read previously, which ones had soldiers in them.
Yeah.
Mistborn Era 1 has soldiers.
Yeah.
Mistborn Era 2 certainly does not.
Yep.
Elantris doesn't really have... It has soldiers, but you don't...
Characters.
It doesn't have any named soldiers, so it can't be one of those. Warbreaker doesn't have soldiers. So it could only be someone from Mistborn Era 1.
Yes.
So then I was thinking about, well, what soldiers do I know? And the only one that came to my mind was Demooks.
Yeah.
So it had to be him.
Yeah.
And then for Blunt...
Yeah.
The person that he sort of reminded me of the most was Vasher.
Okay.
Because he just sort of came across in a very similar way as Vasher.
Okay.
I now know he's not Vasher.
Yes.
I was quite disappointed by this. Yeah. I'm still waiting for Vasher to turn up. Okay. Because Vasher is in this book somewhere.
Yes, so you now know it's not Vasher, it's Bayon, who is a character from White Sand, which even I haven't read. It's fine. I'll read it one day, I promised.
Yeah, so I didn't know who that was, so...
Yeah, I'm not going to blame you for not getting that one.
Yeah. And then when they leave via walking through the Pure Lake.
Okay, yes, we disagree on this.
I know we disagree on this, but from looking at that, it made me think that maybe somewhere in the Pure Lake there was the portal to the cognitive realm.
Yes.
Because for 3 Worldhoppers to turn up in the Pure Lake and be very specific about searching the villages around the Pure Lake for Hoid makes me think that it must be the portal in.
Yes.
If they're focusing so closely on that specific area.
Yeah.
So that's what made me think that it was the portal to the cognitive realm for Roshar.
Yeah.
Just because of their determination to search this area.
Yeah, they're searching that area. It's a big, thin, like, shallow pool. Like, there's definitely something magical going on with the Pure Lake. It's like 2 or 3 feet deep, and it pretty much stays that depth the whole way, despite the fact that it's like a country-sized. And yes, and it retreats into the holes during a ice storm as well. I don't know if you picked up on this, as mentioned. It disappears, like just before a high storm, it kind of sinks into the ground. Okay. High storm passes, and it comes back out again. It's a very weird bit of land, the Pure Lake. Yeah. And so, I don't blame you for thinking that it's the perpendicularity.
Oh, I'm not wrong yet.
Not wrong yet. Not wrong yet.
Next interlude was Narn Blat.
Yes, Narn Blat, yes.
He is a lovely man. He's just sitting there with a crab in his hand, casually pulling the legs off this live crab, talking about how because of his dad's violence, his brothers are so messed up. Yeah. But him and his sister are the only normal ones.
It's like, I'm so glad me and my sister are the only ones that came out unscathed from my dad's horrible anger. Oh, look! The crab doesn't have any legs! Isn't that funny?
Oh, our axe hound has a creature that it's caught. Yes. I'm really jealous that he's the one that gets to kill it. Yeah. But I'm not going to take that joy away from him.
Oh, no. He's going to be nice to the dog, you know.
So, I enjoyed meeting him.
Good.
I want more of him. I need more of him.
You're going to get more of
He's an entertaining lad so far.
Do you not worry? You will be getting more of the Devar brothers.
And then the final interlude for part 1 was more of Szeth. And Szeth is sitting in a tavern with his current owner who had picked him up off the streets. And he started talking about how he didn't look how he liked to look at the moment. He normally looked likes to look like a homeless person, bald, beard, tattered cloak.
Yeah.
So immediately I was like, well, that's Hoid. Has to be Hoid.
Okay.
That was my first Hoid theory of the book.
Okay, interesting.
He is a shard bearer.
Yep.
And he is a surge binder.
Yep.
I still don't know what any of this means, by the way.
Well, shard bearer just means he's got the shard blade.
Yeah, but I don't know what any of the magic systems.
Oh yeah, you know what any of the surge binding is, yeah.
So he uses Stormlight by drawing out of the spheres.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I want more of that. Luckily, I do get more of that.
Yeah.
So he has an oath stone.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what made me think that he might be one of the guys from the prelude.
Yes.
Because with this oath stone, whoever holds it is his master.
Yeah.
And he has to do everything that they ask him to do. He doesn't like killing people, and he keeps getting made to kill people.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there, and this drunk guy is showing off, and he's like, cut your arm open.
Yeah.
So he has to cut his arm open.
Yeah.
And then they go outside, and his master's stumbling around, so he's helping him back to his room when he realises that his master has been stabbed.
He's knifed in the back, yeah.
And he's dying.
Yeah.
And then these thieves come, and they're like, we don't have to worry about him, he's harmless.
He's just a shin, we can dismiss him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they obviously rob the old guy, and they're like, what's this? And he's like, I have to tell you, it's my oath stone. And with that, you can get me to do anything you want, apart from kill myself. And the guy's like, yes, I'm going to have some fun with you.
Yeah.
And that's where we leave poor Szeth.
Poor Szeth, yeah.
I like him.
Szeth's nice big old ball of crazy he is. He's great.
That's page 1 of notes done.
That's page 1 of 7 pages of notes.
Part 2.
Part 2. So, before we get to part 2, how did part 1... You were really enjoying the book, weren't you? You left it?
I wasn't in... Like, the book seemed okay at the end of part 1.
Yeah.
There was a lot going on that I did not understand at all.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was quite, confusing.
Yeah.
So...
It's part 1 of the first book, you know.
Yeah, it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I was really gearing up for part 2.
Yes.
Part 2 is the part of the book that I did not enjoy.
Yeah.
Part 2 is what slowed me down the most.
Mm.
Because part 1, you've got the balance between Kaladin and Shallan.
Yeah.
Because they're both two very different characters doing very different things.
Yeah.
Part 2 is exclusively between Kaladin and Dalinar.
Yeah.
Who are both on the Shattered Plains.
Yeah.
Doing soldier stuff on the Shattered Plains.
Yes.
So because of that, their chapters are very samey at times. I'll get into Dalinar. Daladin now.
Yeah.
I'll get into Dalinar in a moment. But yeah, part 2 was definitely the longest to get through.
Yeah.
But I'll talk about why.
Yes.
I'm going to start off with the epigraphs.
Yes.
Because I was loving the epigraphs. And I worked out quite quickly it was Hoid.
You initially thought it was a shard?
I initially thought that it was maybe a shard trying to rally the other shards.
Yeah.
Something clicked in me and I realised it was Hoid.
There was, one of the epigraphs says, your friends of the 17th shard are hunting me. Or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that's when it clicked for you.
Yeah. And then you...
Yes, and then I messed
it
up.
For me.
And then I messed up because you were like, oh, it's Hoid. And I was like, yeah, it's Wit.
No. I was like, yes, it's Hoid. And you were like, yeah, the letters are Hoid. Well done. And then you were like, oh, I do love reading Wit's letters.
Yeah.
And I was like...
I so naturally switched between referring to him as Hoid and Wit. And so it just naturally came out. I was like, oh, yeah, Wit. And you were like, Wit is Hoid? And I'm like, oh, no.
See, I had only met Wit once at this point.
Yeah.
And I knew that Wit wasn't quite right.
Yeah.
My theory on Wit was that he was a Kandra.
Yes. Which is a good theory.
He had been sent from Syl?
Scadrial.
He had been sent from Scadrial to sort of investigate the shards on this planet. Because obviously they've got a strange shard hovering above their planet.
Yeah.
And it must have come from Roshar.
Okay.
So I assume that he was a Kandra that had been sent to try and work out what was going on. And that's why he was with the king, because you want to stay with the big players.
Yeah, yeah.
So that wasn't
so I kind of ruined that theory for you.
I probably wouldn't have guessed that he was Hoid for quite a while if you hadn't done that.
But I remember you saying you thought... Who was it? One of the books, you were like, I thought that person was Hoid because they were described with the equine nose and like he doesn't have white hair on. No, he doesn't have white hair on Roshar. That's a good point.
No, that was Szeth.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was Szeth.
I thought Szeth
yes,
was. You thought Szeth was it because of his.
I probably would have kept that theory up for a while.
Okay.
Just based on that description. So part 2, we meet Dalinar.
Yeah. It opens well. You said you liked the hunt.
It took a while to get to the hunt, but when we got to the hunt, the hunt was really cool.
Yeah.
I quite like that they've got the shard plates and the shard blades, and despite being in his like
50s,
I
want to say 50s, yeah.
He is keeping up with men like in their 20s because the plating on him.
Yeah. And
he is clearly a very responsible man. He's learnt a lot from Gavilar's death.
Yeah.
Gavilar?
Gavilar, no, Gavilar's correct. Yeah! I was like, why are you laughing? You got that correct. His name's Gavilar.
Fine, I'll have something else to call him. So after his brother's death, he is now with the new king, his nephew, who is very irresponsible. Yeah. He's quite selfish. He just sort of does what he wants to do and doesn't really take anyone else into consideration. But he's there to help him, so that's what he's doing. Yeah. And they climb to the top of the plateau they race to the top of this plateau. Yeah. And they're having a nice little moment. And then when they come back down, they go to sort of like set up their camp. Yeah. And that's when they are attacked by a...
Chasm Fiend.
Chasm Fiend.
Yes.
To me, it was just like this gigantic lobster.
It's basically a gigantic lobster. That is exactly what it is.
And that battle was amazing.
That is one of my favourite parts.
Absolutely amazing.
When Elhokar falls off his horse and Dalinar catches the claw... It's like, oh my god.
So cool.
It's great. I was listening to the audiobook at the same time. I'm like halfway through Way of Kings because this one reads so much quicker than the audiobook. Yeah. And so like when he catches the claw, the audiobook is like hyping it up, and then he goes, he caught it, and I'm like, no! It's great. It's a great early on moment, that is.
So yeah, that battle was really cool.
Yeah.
And then the next chapter is 2 solid hours on the plain with Dalinar just talking.
Standing around talking.
So you go from this big epic battle to just, hi, how's your day been? So that was a difficult chapter to get through. Yeah. And then
Elhokar. Adolin?
Elhokar?
Elhokar the king.
Elhokar.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just trying to work out how to say his name.
Yeah, Elhokar the king. Yeah.
I'm just going to call him the king.
Okay, that's fine.
Like, his mum's got a name in this, and therefore he doesn't have a name in this.
Oh, okay, because main characters aren't allowed to have named mothers. Speaking of not named mothers, you've then also got Adolin and Renarin's mother, who is like magically not named.
But she's not named because whatever Dalinar did with the witch, I don't know whether he went there to have his wife's memories of his wife erased, or whether that was the consequence.
Yes.
Elhokar is really suspicious. Like, since his dad's death, he is very paranoid that someone is going to come and assassinate him. And so he immediately is like, no, someone's trying to kill me. Look, my saddle broke during the battle. Yeah. Someone is trying to kill me.
Take this seriously, Dalinar.
Yeah, you will go and investigate this. And Dalinar's like, okay, I'll do it because you're my king and I'll do what you say. So him and Adolin are then investigating what happened to the king. Yeah. And all of the grooms that they talk, all of like the saddle makers they talk to are like, yeah, it looks like this piece just came a bit loose and it cut that piece. That happens a lot. Yeah. It's quite a common thing. But the king won't accept this. Yeah. The king is adamant that somebody is trying to kill him.
I wonder why.
So he puts Sadius in charge of the investigation. Yeah. And he does not like Dalinar.
No, they do not get on.
No. But Dalinar, talking to Adolin, reveals that he made a pact with Sadius. Yeah. That they, after they both failed to save Gavilar, they are doing what they can to help his son. Yeah. And to make sure that he survives. Which is why, even though they don't like each other, they're working together. Yeah, I really like their relationship in this because I finished, like I said, I'm nearly through part 3 in the audiobook, and I really like that initial tense relationship between Dalinar and Sadius is like, it's really interesting because they clearly hate each other, but they are working together to save Elhokar, to keep Elhokar safe. Whilst they're investigating, they get caught in a heist storm and they have to go into a... Dalinar and Adolin end up going to shelter in a soldier's bunker. Yeah. And Dalinar has...
Oh, yes.
During high storms, he gets these flashback visions.
Yes.
So to everyone else, he's just lying on the floor.
Like spasming and gibbering to himself and...
Well, he's sort of like thrashing about. Yeah. And he's talking gibberish because he's speaking some old ancient language. Yeah. And to everyone else, that's what it looks like. To him, he is living a scene from the past.
Yeah. Which one's the first vision then? Which one's that?
So this one is him in a little village. He's in a barn with this little girl and there's something trying to get in. And he ends up saving her from this creature. Yeah. I think it's called a midnight essence.
That's correct, yeah.
And they are fighting them, and then suddenly the knights of radiance come down from the sky. Yeah. And they're like, wow, you're fighting well. You should come and train with us in Eureka.
Yes. Urethra.
Yeah. What is that actually called?
It's Irithiru or Urethru or... It's basically is urethra, yeah.
Urethra?
Yeah, urethra. Oh my god. Irithiru. There you go.
So come and train with us in urethra. And he's like, I have no idea what that place is. Yeah. And then he goes, like, the vision ends and he's back in reality. Yeah. And he's like, everyone is staring at him, and he's like, great, rumours, more rumours, I don't need this. And then he goes to the king's feast, and Wit is there. This is the first time I got to meet Wit.
He's not a hunt as well, so this is the second time you've met Wit.
Yeah, but you don't really get much of him in the hunt. He's on form at these parties.
Yes.
Because
he is in his element.
He gets to say whatever he wants. Because the king doesn't mind, the king finds it hilarious.
Yeah, well, this is perfect.
So he is insulting everyone as much as he can. He is getting revenge for all those years spent on other planets being a beggar. He is having a great time. The king announces that Sadius, is now his Highprince of information. Yeah. Because he is now in charge of looking into why his saddle broke. Because his saddle broke, someone is trying to kill him. Dalinar has not done enough to investigate it. So you are now in charge. Off you go. Yeah. So that's not good for Dalinar because the hunt left from Dalinar's war camp. Yeah. So he's like, great, this is not going to go well for me. Yeah. So at that point, I couldn't work out whether Sadeas was a good guy or a bad guy.
Yes.
Because he's another one where the scale could tip either way.
Yeah.
So I was trying to work out if he was either a good guy who completely believes that the king's being, like someone's trying to assassinate the king, and he's decided, right, I know for a fact that I'm loyal to the king. I'm going to keep everyone else at arm's length until I can determine who else I can trust.
Yeah.
Or if he was a bad guy and he was going to be like, right, I know for a fact that he's loyal to the king, so I'm going to try and kick him as far away as I can.
Drive a wedge in there, yeah.
So that when the time comes, I can strike and I can take down the king.
Yeah.
So he could go either way.
I really... So early Sadeas is good throughout the book because it's one of those things where it's like, I can't tell if he's a villain or if Dalinar they just legitimately have a good reason to not like each other.
Yeah. With him, I kind of settled on him being a sort of like loyal to the king.
Yeah.
But I didn't quite know where
it would go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was one to keep watching. And then the king's mum turns up for this feast. And she is quite literally throwing herself at Dalinar.
She could not be, more obvious about it.
And Dalinar is a man of honour.
Yeah.
And he is not going to go near his brother's ex-wife.
Yeah.
Because that would be disloyal.
Yes.
So he is doing everything he can to dissuade her. And she is not having any of it.
Yeah.
She is a very determined woman.
Hey, Lucy, how are you enjoying your love triangles where there's two siblings and one non-sibling in the love triangle? How are you enjoying this great Brandon trope that is in all of his books?
So yeah, she is interesting, and she makes a couple of quips about how her son is an idiot and he should not be king. So then I was trying to work out if maybe she was the one trying to sort of take him out.
Yeah.
I didn't think that she was trying to assassinate him, but maybe trying to find a way to get him off the throne. Didn't know if I could trust her or not. There's a lot of characters where you just don't know if you can trust them or not. So then Dalinar spends the rest of the chapter trying to get to unite the princes.
Yes.
Because his vision, it keeps telling him that he's going to unite them.
Yeah.
So he's taken that as, I need to unite the princes, and so he is trying to convince them to do plateau assaults with him, and they're like, no, you are crazy.
Yeah.
No.
We are the Lethe, we are competitive, we don't work together.
Yeah.
No.
So then there's lots of rumours going around the war camps about him being a crazy guy, and he just is so unsure as to what his next action should be. He's trying to unite them. No one wants to work with him.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks he's crazy. So he puts on his shard armour.
Yeah.
He grabs his gigantic forehammer.
Mm-hmm.
He walks over to where they're building a latrine, and he's like, stand back, boys.
Yeah.
I'm doing this. And he powers away. He's got all of these things to think about. He's trying to think about the visions. He's thinking about, is he crazy or not? He's trying to think about his brother's wife.
Yes, Navani.
He's got so much going on in his head that whilst he's thinking, he digs out this whole latrine. And then someone's like, hey,
look, the sun's
your
gone
niece
down?
is calling you.
Yeah.
You've got a
okay.
read call.
Span read, yeah.
So then he goes to take that, and afterwards he's like, you know what? I'm going to abdicate.
Yeah.
And that's where we leave him. He has made the decision that he's abdicating. That's him done.
Yeah. I think Dalinar, that moment for Dalinar in part 2 where he's like, I have so much to work through and I'm so out of my element, because Dalinar is not like a politicky man. He's not a smart man. He is I'm going to hit stuff with a hammer and a shard blade kind of guy. And so he's like, I'm just going to go hit stuff with a hammer and a shard blade for a little while. And so it's like the climax of part 2 is him digging a latrine, because he's doing it in like priceless holy shard plates with a shard blade, and it's like I really like that moment. It's a very.
I was going to say I love the start of part 2 with him, and I love the end of part 2 with him.
Yeah.
There was too much of the middle for me with him.
Yeah, I'm surprised you like the parties. I really like the party.
Well, there was only like one party in part 2. Like, as I said, the majority of part 2 is just war camp politics and...
Walking to these people and, what do you think of the saddle? And walking to these people and it's like, who brushed his horse?
And it's... When you go from part 1 that's like Yafik to part 2 that's like Yafik. It just felt really long.
Yeah.
Kaladin did break it up a bit.
Yeah.
Kaladin is doing his bridge runs.
Yeah.
And he's using his pay to try and buy bandages, trying to find a way to bring these guys together, try and support them. He works out that there is this antiseptic weed growing nearby the camp.
Yes.
So he gets them put on rock duty so they can collect reeds. They're going on bridge runs, and he's managed to convince Gaz to let them bring back the injured, which he's not happy about, but he gives in and lets them.
Yeah.
So the other guys are starting to see that Kaladin is, like, they watch him train every morning. He's working hard to protect the other guys. He's healing them on the battlefield. He's bringing back the injured. He's giving up his food so they can eat, because otherwise they're not allowed to have any food. And the other guys start sort of like trickling and joining him. So he gets Rock, he gets
Rock, Teft, Moash.
Not Moash yet.
Oh, it's not Moash yet. Sigzil?
Yeah.
Sigzil, yes.
So he gets Sigzil and Rock first, I believe.
Yeah.
And they are willing to give up little bits of their food. They're willing to help him collect the reeds. They're willing to try and get the 2 free drops out of each reed.
Yes.
So he manages to sell some sap. He uses the money to buy some cooking supplies and some food. So he starts feeding the guys every night at the campfire. And slowly more and more are starting to come to his side. And it's really sweet.
Yeah, it's nice to see.
It's a really nice moment.
He's building this community. He's building something.
Yeah. So that's Kaladin this chapter.
Yeah.
That's,
that whole part 2, That whole part 2 is...
you don't really get much, but what you get is really lovely.
Yeah.
And you see him on his bridge runs trying to do his best for his team.
Yeah.
And he's slowly starting to build a little team. And it's lovely.
It's nice.
But in the Kaladin chapters, you also get flashback Kaladin.
Yes, you start getting the flashbacks, don't you?
So we see Kaladin as a young teen. He's 12, 13.
Something like that, yeah.
He's learning to be a surgeon from his dad. So he's his dad's assistant because his dad's the town surgeon. And he is talking to... Laurel.
Yeah.
And she's like, I've heard rumours that if you manage to capture a shard blade on the battlefield, it will turn your eyes light. You should do that.
And he's like, why does she want me to do that?
Yeah. And then Tien?
Yeah, Tien.
Tien. He likes to find little rocks.
Yes.
And when he finds these rocks that he says are special.
Yeah.
And then it's discovered that when you pour water on them, there's patterns on them, and there's little faces on them. So I theorise that maybe this is where, like, Eureka was?
Eureka
I genuinely can't say the place's name.
Don't worry, you'll get there in the end.
No, I won't. So I had a theory that that's where this place was, because Yasna talks about it. And it's supposed to be a place that used to exist, doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So I figured you've got these rocks that look plain, but then when they're wet, they've got faces on, they've got patterns on. Like, it has to be somewhere significant. Yeah. Like, that doesn't just happen randomly. Yeah. So this place is important. And we will come back to it eventually, I'm sure. I know you don't see any significance in it, but I do.
Well, as I said, so far... The Hearthstone isn't important, but we're on book 4 of 10. Yeah. Right? Plenty can happen between now and the end of the last book.
Well, it could be. It's either... Because have you found Yeah.
I'm not going to say.
Okay,
Obviously.
well, if you haven't found it yet, then it could be this place.
Yeah.
If not, it could be some important, like, Herald or Knights of Radiant place.
I remember you saying, because you thought that the chapter arches with people's faces on them, you were like, oh, are those the faces that Tien's finding?
Yeah.
And I was like, I hadn't thought of that before.
Yeah, there's something about it. It's not just some random thing.
Yeah.
And why would you include that detail if it's not going to come back at some point? Thank you. The City Lord dies, and they get a new City Lord.
Yes.
And the new City Lord comes in, and the townspeople are suspicious because when the previous City Lord died, he left a load of like diamond spheres to Kaladin's dad,
Lirin,
in his will.
Yes.
And so everyone is already sort of like suspicious of him.
Yeah.
And the City Lord doesn't like him, doesn't like the fact that he's been put in this backwards town.
Yeah.
Does not like the fact that he's inherited this little town that's got no money.
Yeah.
But there is someone in the town that has a lot of money.
A big goblet
and he's got dark eyes, and therefore he doesn't deserve to have money.
Mm-hmm.
So he is quite determined to bring him down.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we leave him in part 2.
Yep.
And then we get the
Interludes. Yeah.
So the first one was Risen.
Yeah. Or Risen, like...
Risen.
You can say it how you want. I'm just saying how I say it.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not complaining.
Okay.
My issue is that why can't he just have a normal name like Bob? Risen. His name is Risen.
Her name is Risen.
So Risen is out with the traders.
Yeah.
And they're trading with a trader from Shin.
Yeah.
And it's revealed that he is the one that sold Szeth to
out of Shinobar, you know.
Out of Shinobar. And he refers to him as the truth.
Yes. Truthless.
Truthless.
Yes.
So in talking to these traders, they reminded me of in Disenchanted.
Yes.
Yeah. That like Elfo leaves his candy village and he finds a little peasant house and he goes in and he's like, wow, this food's delicious. And they're like, please, we're humble people. Stop giving us praise. And they just reminded me of him.
Yeah.
So they are clearly a humble people that do not like compliments, do not like any sort of praise at all.
They have a very interesting culture because they've got that whole, put down everything you've got. And then they've also got this whole like truthless thing where it's like, it seems like they hold of being truthful as something incredibly valuable in their society because, they banish someone, they become a truthless. And so it's like it's like they've got to put their stuff down because they can't big it up, because if they big it up, they might lie about it. And it's like, no, you've got to be as truthful about your stuff as you can be.
I don't know anything about them yet. Like, I literally have only met one trader in this one interaction, and he seems very humble.
Yes.
And they do not like Szeth.
Szeth, yeah.
Because he's truthless.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that means.
Yeah.
I'm excited to find out what that means.
Yep, same.
So yeah, that was that one.
Yeah. What did you think of Risen as a character?
Literally know nothing about her, mate.
She's having fun, she's trading away.
That epilogue is like 2 pages long. Like, there is not enough there to make a judgment on a character.
Okay, that's fine.
And then the next one is Axis.
Axis the Collector.
Axis the Collector. So he wakes up, kind of naked in an alleyway.
Yeah.
Wraps a blanket round himself. He's covered in tattoos. And he's just out observing all of the Spren.
Yeah, Spren.
And he is looking for like Spren that haven't been documented before.
Yes, he's collecting Spren.
And because he keeps getting robbed, instead of writing in a notebook, he writes all over his skin.
Yes.
He's he seems really cool. And then he goes down to the harbour because he hears that there's a rare Spren that hangs out there. Kushakesh.
Yes, don't worry. It took me a while to learn how to say that as well.
I'm never going to learn.
Yeah, I know. It's fine.
So we meet that one.
Yes.
And it's this gigantic,
blue, watery blob.
Yeah, and its face changes into horrified, screaming people's faces.
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
And then he is obviously found half naked in public, which is very not okay.
Oh, yes.
And he gets excited because he gets to hang out with a jail Spren.
Yeah.
So I love him. He seems really cool, and I would like more of the Collector.
Axes
I hope he comes back.
Yes, Axes is a very good lad. He's a top lad.
It's a shame he's only in one chapter.
It is.
And then we're back to Szeth.
Yeah, good old Szeth. What's Szeth up to in this one then?
So Szeth has been sent by his current owner. He's going around having to kill the current owner's enemies. His only instruction was to kill that one guy.
Yeah.
So he's purposely trying not to kill any guards. He's going out of his way to do it quietly because he doesn't want to hurt anyone unnecessarily. And then he walks into a room and there's a guy in there and he just sort of throws a head at him and he's like, "Your target's dead, mate." He's like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then he's like, "Yeah, it's a shame that your talents are going to waste with that guy. You should work with someone that can put your talents to good use." And he's like, "Don't want to.
Yeah.
I'd rather not be doing any of this." And then the guy's like, "Well, here's your previous master's head.
Yeah.
I've got your oath stone.
So you got to do what I say now.
Here is a list of targets. Go and kill them. Instructions are on the list." And he's got a list of targets. They're in order of who to kill first. And it's kings, it's high lords, it's all these
generals,
big players that we've never met and we're never going to meet.
And you meet some of them very, very briefly before their eyes get burnt out.
But there's instructions on how to kill them. So some he wants killed really brutally, some he just wants subtly killed.
Yeah.
And that's where we leave poor Szeth.
Poor Szeth.
Having to kill more people.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was part 2.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, we've been recording for about an hour now, and you have a lot of notes on part 3. Do you want to hold it?
Part 3 is multiple pages.
I say we call it there, and then next video we'll do 3, 4, and 5, since 3 and 4 are your big ones, and 5 is basically an extended epilogue.
5 is 2 pages.
Oh, you managed to get a lot out of 5.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that's my current questions and theories, the back of that. Okay. So the ones that I left the book with.
Yes. Cool. Well, we'll leave it there. So Dalinar's off doing his thing, Kaladin's off doing his thing, and Szeth's off doing his thing. So
and Shallan.
Oh, Shallan's yeah, Shallan's not in part 2 at all, is she?
No. And
she's conspicuously missing, unfortunately.
I know. I could have done with her breaking up the war a bit.
Yeah, I really like Shallan in Way of Kings. Some people don't. And I get it, but...
Well, she doesn't have that much of a story. So far, all that she's really done is wanted to be Yasna's ward. Yeah. So I can understand that.
I just really like the research element, and I just really love Yasna as a character. I think that Yasna's great. And so yeah, cool. We're gonna leave it there then, guys. Thank you for watching. Leave comments down below. Follow us on 17show.com, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, and we have a Patreon, so it goes money. And then that's us for today. Bye.